Does anyone have anything they would like to start discussing at all today? So, do you care, Jan? I just mentioned, Jan, that Tadao is gone to hospital for a few weeks, so he won't be able to join us, but he's really appreciated your and our sharing over the last several months and years, and he's taking your book and one or two other books with him to hospital, and we hope he'll come back after that. And I mentioned that I think of the person in hospital alone without family or friends and so on, the big story in drama, but actually the world is just now, the thinking now, and the understanding conditions a little more equanimity, a little more reflection on karma that brings its results, different moments. So it's always back to now and this moment.
Ken? Are you talking about Jonathan?
No, I'm talking about Tadao.
Oh, Tadao.
Yes, Tadao has gone, he was in hospital before for some surgery, and he's gone back to hospital for more surgery, and he will be there in hospital for several weeks, and he can't take his computer or equipment, so he can't join us. Yes, Tadao.
Sorry to hear that, but I hope he'll get well soon.
Yes, we all do. But he's been very appreciative and glad that even last week he was encouraged to bring up his topics, and he's been listening and reflecting wisely. So I'm sure it will help him a lot.
Because Dhamma is so very close just now, right now. And Dhamma, hearing about Dhamma, conditioned moment of not forgetting what is there, is the word of the Buddha about. Forget that which is so close and just think about the other thing far away. That's right, coming back little by little in order to realize the truth. No matter what is there, it's true. But the truth of it is that it cannot be taken for anything, because as soon as it is experienced, it's gone. Completely, absolutely, never to return at all.
Yes, we always forget that the world is right now lost in the drama and the story about this thing or that thing or this person or that thing. But actually the world is just the seeing now, the hearing now, the thinking now, kindness now, worry now, always back to this moment, no matter the circumstances. And only the confidence brings the firm, only the understanding brings the firm confidence that the truth is right now.
It doesn't matter, no matter it is, it's just the way it is. Forgetfulness is conditioned, remembering is conditioned, everything, no matter what, now. Why it has to be awareness of that which is now to understand the truth. Otherwise, it's just thinking about the word, about it, but not the characteristic which now appearing as it is. Nobody can change that which seen now. It's seen, it's not seen. And that which experiences is always forgotten.
Yes, I think, and this is a good reminder too, that it doesn't matter now whether it's remembering or forgetfulness, because it's just conditioned, it's just Dhamma, and it falls away instantly. And there can be awareness even now. Otherwise, there's thinking and thinking about the story of me and my forgetfulness and my cognitive problem and this and that. But actually, it's just Dharma at this moment, no matter what, to be understood.
And Panya begins to understand the path leading to getting and let go the ideas that as something. It cannot be anything at all. Only it's seen, it's heard, that's all. And it experiences from moment of birth to death and on by conditions. As the condition for this moment to arise, the condition for the moment after death to arise again. So just live, who cannot live, impossible, as long as there are conditions for anything to arise, it's there. Mm-hmm. Depending on it's the object of ignorance, attachment, aversion, or the moment of hearing, considering about the truth of it on until it appears as it is. To Panya, which gradually letting go the idea of seeing from it. It takes quite a long time because the idea of something is accumulated for quite a long time. That's why it has to be so natural as now, because it has already conditioned to be experienced now. Nothing can be done, but right understanding can begin to understand the way it is as no one at all. The way it is, it's now sees, it's now here, it's now think, it's now life of the soul. It, not I or anyone, only which arises and experience different objects from moment to moment. Until there's no conditions for anything to arise, nothing can arise.
Yes, it has to be the way it is. No one can change it. So if it's not the way we'd like it, but it can't be any other way. And when there's understanding, moments of understanding, no problem at all. It's only when there's the thinking and the taking it for something that there's a problem. And it's just for a moment.
Dhamma is when it's there only.
Oh, that's
and
true. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was going to say, and we think about the forgetfulness and the memory lapse, but actually Sanya is at each moment. It's just not marking what we would like, what I would like for me. But
Right.
It's just the way it is. It can't be any other way because it's conditioned and accumulate to remember, to mark just what it does at this moment. Like instantly with the background, it was marking and remembering some details, but other things one would like, forgetting about. But it's just how it is, not my forgetfulness or my good memory. What were you going to say, Anne?
I was going to say, so much of the time when that happens, I find that one of the first places I go is, I have forgotten. I can, there is a deficit. It's mine. You're right. One needs to listen to more and more to the Dhamma to understand, to truly understand at a deep level. Nothing is mine.
Otherwise, it's always my problem, my medical situation, my drama, totally forgetting about Dhamma right now, the world at this very moment.
And it's a problem with everyone. I mean, in your case, you're particularly thinking about memory and your cognitive problems, but it's with everyone. If it's not this, it's something else.
True. Very
always
true.
something.
It's always something. That's right.
A story about a situation, a drama, getting lost in the fantasy, the dream, forgetting about the world right now.
Right. And it can be something one does not like, or it can be something one is very attached to, one way or the other. It's lost in the dream.
Right. This person, that person, what someone said, what someone didn't do, what someone, where someone is going. It's just a dream, a fantasy, not understanding right now.
Yeah. For sure.
Realities are so very subtle. At moment of thinking, I forgot. At that moment, Sanya marks and remembers the object already. It does mean that there's no Sanya to remember. But
Yeah.
at that very moment, it's Sanya. It's there already.
Yes, as Jonathan said the last time we talked about this, that the sanya is there. It's the retrieval. That's the, you know, when sanya does not remember. Sanya marks everything, but when it does not remember, that's when it can cause frustration and concern.
But actually it's remembering at each moment. It just depends on the conditions, what it marks and remembers.
Right.
And we think of the situation like, oh, I can't remember where I put my keys or where my glasses gone. But actually, even at those moments, Sanya is marking and remembering what is experienced, what is seen now, what is heard now, what is thought now. It's marking, remembering all the time. It's just not the way I would like it to be.
Yes, yes. The marking and remembering. I've often thought of those as being two different, very interrelated, but nonetheless two different steps.
So these are the functions of Sanya. So at each moment, it marks and remembers what is experienced. But when it's arising with moments of seeing and hearing, which are result, it doesn't accumulate. But when it arises with kusala and akusala chittas, the marking and remembering is accumulated, ready to condition, marking and remembering again about such objects. For example, remembering the color that is experienced and the color that one likes. And then later there will be the remembering and liking of the color again, thinking about it again and again, because it's been marked and remembered.
So the thinking about it again and again is the remembering of what has been previously marked.
Right. Thinking about it again and again. And at each moment there is marking and remembering with that thinking.
Reinforcing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And it just depends on the accumulations and the interest, what is remembered. Like some people can remember telephone numbers and some remember details in a background or whatever. It depends on the interest and the accumulation. What is marked, what is remembered, what there's interest in.
Yes. You said something earlier, Sarah, that about seeing, for instance, the Sanya arises with seeing, yes?
Yes.
But it doesn't accumulate. You said something, it doesn't accumulate.
Right. It just marks that object, but it's the result, it's the vipaka citta. So it just marks at that moment. So it doesn't accumulate. Whereas the remembering the sanya at the moment of lobha now, when one enjoys the background or is happy to see one's friend, that sanya accumulates, remembering and conditioning the thinking and liking again and again.
So it doesn't accumulate with vipaka jittas, but it does with kusala or akusala jittas.
Right.
Okay. It's actually amazing to think of the extent of what is remembered. Marking and remembering, marking each kusala or akusala that arises. You can't think of it quantitatively, though, I know.
And like now, speaking a few words, impossible without Sanya having marked and remembered the sound, the meaning, the ideas over and over again. Otherwise, one couldn't even say just a couple of words.
Right.
So we think there's forgetfulness, but at this moment of speaking, there's the remembering each moment in order to say the words.
It's always remembering, it's just not always what you want. That's the lopa and the idea.
taking it all for
Yes.
self. Yes.
Yeah.
And being obsessed by being obsessed of what is forgotten
Mhm.
and worrying, which just conditions more thinking and with
Right.
worry and more disturbance.
There's no question that it's better when there isn't the worry and the disturbance, the letting it go by.
As I used to say to my mother when she was ill, that most of what is remembered is quite useless anyway, like all about all the holidays and what happened yesterday and what one ate for breakfast, and it's so unimportant. But the remembering that life is now, that seeing is now, the world is now, that the Dhamma is not self. This is what is precious, precious to be remembered and accumulated. Just the understanding now.
Yes, there's no question we're happier remembering what we like.
A moment ago, Sarah, you said something about Sanya marking and remembering so much stuff. Like in 1 second, there's just marking and remembering. And it then occurred to me, that just goes on continuously. So no wonder there's this idea of self, a self who's remembering and doing stuff. I don't know that I have any questions on it, but it just occurred to me just how we hang on to our memories.
Succession of chittas with Sanya marking and remembering,
Exactly.
and then leading to the thinking of the shape, the form, the person, the situation, the drama, the hospital, the memory lapse. Yes, without Sanya, there wouldn't be any of that thinking, any of those ideas.
Yeah, that really just hit home. And it's been interesting, this discussion, because today I have to leave early because I'm having some complicated dental work done. And I've been sort of nervous about it all morning, but to hear other people's issues with around say health, it's been quite wonderful, because I was thinking, I'm thinking about something that's going to happen later in the day, not thinking about what's going on. There could be duty jitta before then. So, yeah, there will be no dental appointment. So it's those reminders to come back to now, I think are probably the most precious word. I hear Ajahn say understanding is the most precious. And the reminders of the present moment, I would think, are second precious. I never get tired of hearing about now because, like we talked about last week, here and now, that's all there is.
But Zita, if it's not understanding, then it's ignorance. So even the now, reminders about now, if it's not, does not condition understanding, what does it condition?
Well, when the here and now, I was just including Panya in that, because here and now to ignorance doesn't mean anything.
And for Pandya to arise, to actually arise, is not often, it's very rare. So even while thinking about now, be hearing reminders about now, there is, in fact, a lot of ignorance and attachment. Not really now, not really what appears, just thinking about now.
Sukin, thanks for bursting my bubble. Yeah, good reminders. Thank you.
Ajahn, in one of the discussions last week, you mentioned about the Mahagosinga Sutta, and I gave the reference to the Vietnamese friends. And it's interesting because we read about how Sariputta talks about how the wood is so delightful and the night is moonlit and the sala trees are in full blossom and the heavenly scents are floating around, but of course without any attachment at all. So it's not the words, it's the understanding. And then he asks the other arahats what could illuminate it. And as you mentioned in the discussion, they all give their different answers. Ananda talks about how a learned one remembers what has been learnt and how the teachings are good in the beginning, in the middle and the end, and how the holy life is perfect and so on. And Anuruddha Rawata talks about the delight in living alone and dwelling alone, and Anuruddha talks about the divine eye and so on. And then Sariputta in the end talks about Bhikkhu who has mastery over the mind, doesn't let the mind have mastery over him. And of course, this all has to be understood in the light of Dhammas as anatta and the abidings and so on. And when they go to see the Buddha, as you mentioned, the Buddha says all the answers are correct. And what's interesting is they all went to the Buddha to hear what is the right one. So even the arahats would go to address the Buddha and ask for clarification. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add about this.
Just all depends on conditions. That's all. Topic of conversation among them. any object, any topic can be brought to talk about. Otherwise, it's silent. There must be conditions for whatever arises. Even thinking, different thought, different idea, by conditions, that's all. We all know, but they just would like to have Buddha talk a little more or about it, or it depends on what Buddha said. Because they all said, and what did Buddha say about this? Just another idea or accumulation. So as I would say, what do you think? See?
There are just different accumulations like now for what Sanya marks and remembers according to the interest, what the thinking thinks about. And it's the same for great arahats too, different accumulations to give different answers, to reflect wisely in different ways, even though no doubt, no misunderstanding, no attachment at all.
And I'm sure if the question wasn't about one example, one thing, they would have thought about and given more than one. So at that time, what came to their mind by their accumulations, and that's the answer they gave. And that's why actually it's all were right. It's from, I mean, all the answers were right. They were all valuable, all great things, but it's just that they were asked one answer and they gave that one answer.
It might be another answer the next day, okay, all depending on conditions and accumulations at the time. Zita, you mentioned
Now, from moment to moment, and there are also different chittasikas or realities arising. And at moment when a chitta arises, they are there too. But not anyone shows up like sanya now, see. But there can be moment of understanding of what is sanya. Now it marks and remembers what is there to be known as something later. But no, when sanya does not appear as the object, yet it's no selection at all to have sanya to be known. That is the understanding of the anatta-ness of what is there. And not only sanya, there are other realities too, like vitaka and manasikara and so on, but they do not appear. And the getting and the letting go of all the interest by the self, just try to find out, it's there too. That's why there has to be the understanding, more subtlety of the reality, which now remembers and other quality or characteristic of different cetasikas or Dhamma too. That's why what is now appearing is only that which can be known. And later, when Panya is strong enough, it depends on what can be the object of understanding right then. No doubt, as long as there is the understanding of that which appears as no self, and understanding the reality which experiences at any time, and that which cannot experience. Otherwise, the world is full of nimitta, of all these realities arising and falling away, so very closely, rapidly, to be I or something all the time. And the way to understand and letting go the idea of self is so subtle. At this very moment, naturally, it means that there is some letting go of the idea of self, little by little, until whatever appears shows up as it is, not be forgotten, because it's so clear, but at any other moment besides that moment which it appears clearly, there can be the condition for understanding the truth of no matter what, like feeling. See, it's not that which is the teeth of experiencing because it feels when it's there. But after that, there are so many different feelings unknown when there's no understanding and no direct awareness of it. But the understanding is there. It depends on sanya, which remembers, and there are conditions for that kind of sanya to apply to whatever is there as no one and no thing, because the characteristic of that which experiences is known. No doubt about that. So it doesn't matter at all whether attachment at any level is there, which can be known. But it depends on the strength or the deep understanding of reality, which develops little by little, to know that even just one word like sati, satipatthana, or the moment of sati arises and is aware of a reality, it's not as yet as that which touches or being aware, only just more and more to go down to just only one, and it is right there. See, otherwise that cannot be directly appear as the object of understanding. So even sati, there are many degrees like satipatthana, satindriya, and satiphala, and so on, because of the understanding of that object is closer. When we talk about closer now, is it close enough to the object which is there and arises and falls away? Because it's so quickly experienced, and then the other object is there. That's why the more understanding of one reality can condition a more letting go, little by little. And the strength of the indriya becomes to be pala when it can apply to anything after vipassana. Otherwise, how can it be pala? It is only indriya because it is able to be conditioned to be directly aware. But directly aware, such word, only one word, many degrees too. So that's why many degrees of panya or right understanding. So that's why we have confidence of the truth that only now, when whatever appears, it depends on understanding, whether it can condition moment of direct understanding of that just in the beginning, a little bit to be known, that it just begin to be aware and natural. Because now there is touching, for example, no awareness, and begin to be aware just a moment because other things also appear. So it means that direct awareness is not yet close enough to understand the truth of it. That's why many degrees of development, right understanding, which begins from hearing, considering, and understanding that the truth is not far away at all. Whatever now is the object, it arises in falsehood. So learn about the depth, the subtlety of each word. And when right understanding is there enough, it has no doubt about what is meant by sati, patthana, and indriya, and so on. Little by little. So the letting go of sanya, see, depends on understanding at that moment too, because sanya begins to remember correctly when it arises with panya, which understands correctly the truth of that which is now appearing, little by little.
So Zita, when earlier we were talking about now, and I talked about the function of panya, I think you can also think of that now in terms of the function of sati also, yeah.
yeah, I think it was last week, there was a good discussion on the on sati. You know, if there's no sati, then there's no panya.
Hmm.
Without understanding the reality which experiences and the reality which cannot experience, can there be directly understanding of that which is not self? And now seeing is that reality which experiences an object is not the object of awareness yet. So the characteristic of that which now experiences, no matter it is attachment, aversion, or that which is achieved, is not known, just being heard about it. That's why the characteristic of that which cannot be taken for self, because it just arises to experience, no matter it is attachment, aversion, or whatever is there, as that which experiences an object. That's why the first stage of understanding clear vipassana has to be no doubt about that which is there as the object. It experiences only. Otherwise, when there is other object with it, suddenly or very quickly, it's not the understanding of that object clearly. That's why no doubt about characteristic which experiences now, that just the first vipassana jhana is not enough, because it's so short, very, very short. And since it has been experienced, no doubt about the characteristic of that which experiences, but in a day, that understanding has to arise again and apply the truth of it to whatever is there, not just that which is experienced at the moment of when it's clear as vipassana jhana. And this is the way to wash away, to let go the idea of the accumulation of the self so very thickly, strongly, little by little. And this is the subtlety of the path, natural understanding of that which is so natural conditioned in the day. Just right now, no one conditioned it at all. The move of the hand, the seeing, turning right or left, and so on, all by conditions in life. That's why it has to be by conditions, and only that which appears. Because in truth, nothing is there, left only that which is there as the object and the experiencing. So just have confidence of the path that is Adidana Barami and Satya Barami. Understanding the subtlety of reality, which now, not at the moment, now arises and falls away. So just develop naturally with panya knows about conditions and awareness. To have more confidence of the truth on and on until it's time to realize the Four Noble Truths. And now it's time to let go ignorance and also attachment to the object as something too that is not known, like holding the knife's handle. Who knows? No one knows before that very moment by conditions. So have confidence of right understanding. That I can do, but it depends truthfully on right understanding how much is there now of that object which appears now as the object. And that is Viriya Barami and Kanti Barami.
Chan, this similar of the knife's handle, does it apply only to Panya, but also I was wondering, because when there's more understanding, all kinds of kusla also increases. So this, when reflecting on the kusla that seem to arise in a day more often than before, is that also a reminder? That is also what the knife handle means, the wearing away of the knife handle?
When Panya is there, how come only Panya arise, or other realities, the mental factors also arise with it? Right now, our dhammas arise together at that level. They arise together, experience the same object, but they have different function. Passa cannot understand, but Panya condition Passa to contact that which is there as usual. But when there's no Panya, just contact as usual. It experiences the same object, which takes that for something, but it cannot be understanding of Panya or other Cetasikas at all. And without Panya, can there be seeing, hearing, understanding? And what conditions different Passa? With understanding or without understanding. But Passa cannot understand. It just by understanding, condition it to Passa, contact with object. For now, can right understanding have Passa contacted object, which is there now, just now? It arises in context. But what about the realities which arise with it? Attachment, ignorance, or kindness, or whatever. But Passa is only Passa, depending on whether it can Passa the truth like Nibbana or not.
Azita, as you're leaving early, at the end of the last discussion, you brought up a topic which we said we would discuss a bit more, and it's actually related to Sanya. Jan had mentioned that Sanya doesn't show up because there's attention immediately to the shape and form and to something. And you were just beginning to ask about the shape and form of realities, even when there's no thinking or no thinking or Sanya. Actually, there has to be Sanya. Was there anything further you wish to ask about?
No,
Like-
I
Remember,
Like-
we were talking about in nimitta, whether rupas out there, even if it's not experience, we talk about rupas having nimitta and anupayanchana. You would mention this in the end of last Monday's discussion. Remember?
yes, and I think I decided it's not really important, because who knows if the rupas that aren't contacted have nimitta and anupayanjana. I mean, it's just conceptual thinking, really.
No, it can be a way to understand what nimitta actually is also, right? If we understand nimitta to be everything that rises and falls away must have nimitta. And
isn't it only nimitta when it's experienced by jitta? Like the rupas that aren't experienced.
discussion. That's what we were going to discuss. Whether that's the case or whether there's nimitta regardless of the experience.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything more to say on it. I think the interest in that is gone. unless you have something to.
No, I just know that I need to think about it more, and it doesn't have to be any particular topic. For me, it's fine.
How could there be nimitta when the object is not experienced?
That's my point too, Anne. That's what I came up with, that, you know, it's nimitta because this jitta's experiencing what was, say, for example, seeing, and the chittas that follow have that object, but not the real object, the nimitta. So
Yes.
if they're not, if those rupas, if visible object is not experienced by jitta, why would there be nimitta?
Yeah, but that would be saying that nimitta is produced by the chitta, and that doesn't sound right, does it?
I'm not saying it's produced by.
But
I'm not saying it's produced by jitta. It's what is the actual object has fallen away. So what is left is like that shadow, or as it's called, nimitta.
right, but the chitta itself rises and falls away, and that too has its own nimitta. The rupa has its own nimitta. So it's regardless of being experienced. So we're trying to understand what nimitta really is. And
can we say that nimitta only has relevance at moments of experiencing?
right. And that's why.
And I'm not sure we can say that rupa has nimitta at other moments. It doesn't seem to be an appropriate description, but nimitta is only something that has any relevance at moments of experiencing.
Right, because without experiencing, if the rupa is not experienced, I don't see how there can be.
If the rupa is not experienced, there can be no question of its nimitta.
Right.
Yeah, but also if rupas didn't rise and fall away in succession, would there be the experience by chitta of shape and form? If rupas didn't rise up and fall away, and if there was no nimitta, would the chitta know shape and form of rupas?
I feel you've got it a bit wrong way round, Sukin, because I understand that the object is experienced by one jitta, then it falls away, so that jitta that actually experiences the object, the say color, that falls away, but the next jittas have that nimitta as their object. That rupa's gone already. Forget about the rupa, but the object of that jitta is the nimitta of the rupa that's gone already.
So you're saying that the rupa, if the rupa didn't have nimitta, the following chittas wouldn't know the experience of rupa?
No, I'm not saying that.
No, that would mean that, wouldn't it?
At the moment of when rupa is experienced by seeing consciousness, it's the rupa, not its nimitta, that's being the object of the moment of seeing consciousness. So there's never any question of the nimitta of a rupa that's not been experienced.
But as Azita was referring to the chittas later, which experience the nimitta of that rupa, so
well, no, that's a different use of nimitta, isn't it? When you say they experience the nimitta, which citta experiences the nimitta of a rupa? What are you referring to there? Not the moment of seeing consciousness.
Not the moment of seeing, no. And I think Azita was referring to something that's not the rupa, but the nimitta of that rupa that's being experienced by successive following chittas after the seeing. And that's the distinction she was making. And my question was that if the rupas did not have nimitta, would those other chittas be experiencing nimitta? What nimitta would that be? It would be of the rupa.
Well, I'm not sure if you're correctly understanding what Azita said in the first place.
Oh, okay.
What about it?
Azita. Azita, you want to try again?
I need to get it up first. Jesus, God.
So Ken, you seem to have more of a memory of what I said last week than I do. So
No, I'm a bit blur about that.
Well, I'm very blur.
Yeah.
But we'll see I've only got 5 minutes left. So whether it's worth going on to something else while Jonathan is looking for it, or whether we just let it go.
No. It's always good to know. I mean,
Okay.
we hear a lot about nimitta, and so do we understand nimitta? I mean, what it is, and that's why we don't have enough understanding. That's why we're having all these questions and doubts.
I thought that what you brought up last time was about the nature of reality, of sound, the different qualities, the shape, the form, about how sounds are high or low or soft or harsh, regardless of whether they're experienced. And usually there is attending to the shape and form and the kind of sound and taking it for something, because if all sounds are the same, there wouldn't be the taking it for something. So I thought this was the topic. But anyway, I have to take a phone call. So let's see if Ajahn has any comments to add.
Ajahn, can you help clear the confusion?
Hey, sorry, I forgot to turn on. As long as there is no precise understanding of that which is not nimitta, can there be the understanding of the nimitta as not a reality? See, that's why just begin with what is seen. We don't talk about the truth, but usually in a day, instantly, as soon as one opens one's eye, what is seen? Something right now, for example, flowers and many things, but in truth, what is seen? That's why we learn to understand how come that which appears as something, not at moment of seeing, not at moment of hearing, but through mind or not understanding the truth of that, which is only the shadow of the reality. So now, as soon as we understand nimitta, there can be the right understanding that how one lives just in the world of nimitta from life to life. No understanding of the truth of how what condition nimitta be the object of thinking. That's why we learn to understand what is nimitta. It's not a reality, but without reality, there cannot be nimitta. That's why after seeing, what follows? The mind process instantly experience the same object, but it's not as that which is the object of seeing, because the object of seeing is not nimitta. But after that, there is memorying and remember the succession of the arising and falling of one quality and seeing right now. So we take seeing for nimitta of seeing unknowingly. That is not the moment of seeing itself, which experiences the thought about that. So it is like seeing the object of nimitta of seeing only. Take it for seeing, but not the reality of the seeing itself. So that's why we learn to understand just one way at a time. Without reality, there cannot be nimitta. But as soon as the reality which has seen fall away, it's followed by mind of process, which take the seeing that take first to be the nimitta of seeing. Right now, imagine how short a moment is. That's why we see what is seen by nimitta to be something all the time. So nimitta is the object of mind only, because at moment of experiencing through sense, it's not nimitta, it's the reality of that. It's the regular experience by itself of that process. But after that, the world of thinking about everything combined together, come together as something all the time. And that is nimitta, because not understanding the truth, that what is taken for that has gone, and the left, what is left there is the marking, remembering that as something is like right now. So first understand the world of nimitta now, when there's no understanding of the absolute truth, which now arises and falls away so rapidly in split seconds. See? So we live in the world of nimitta, not understanding the reality as it is. Is it right? It's the world of nimitta, when there's no understanding of reality as it is. It's the nimitta of seeing. But the truth is that how many moments of citta through the idol and the minder and the vanga and everything taught by the enlightened one. What is touched is nimitta. What is seen is nimitta. What is heard is nimitta. As soon as there is hearing, one understands what the meaning of it instantly. But there are so many processes in between, unknown. So what appears is only the nimitta of the realities. That's why we learn about the absolute truth, which is
Ajahn, can I ask a question, Ajahn? Sorry to interrupt. I'd like to understand a bit more about the living in the world of nimitta. Can it be said that the Arahat also lives in the world of nimitta, or not? That would help perhaps to clarify how you're using this expression. The Arahat.
Is there you or no you?
In terms of absolute realities, there is no reality of me.
Is there any doubt of reality?
Doubt arises. Yes, doubt has not been eradicated.
Is doubt you or not you?
Well, it can't be you, because we've just said there is no you in absolute reality.
Before there can be the understanding of the truth of our reality. There must be the nimitta of many realities from moment of birth up to now. Nimitta. Who knows or who directly experiences the arising and falling away of a nimitta, of a reality. That's why it's the word of nimitta from birth. What is there appearing is not known, that it's gone already. Replaced by the next one, suddenly, immediately, rapidly. And it is the same like now. Seeing is just seeing. No, it doesn't appear as it's not there anymore. Just arise again and again and again. In between mind or process and the one who knows.
And
We
for
take
the
it for
Arahant,
something all the time. From
and
moment.
for the Arahant, Ajahn?
Are you talking about understanding or ignorance? Even Arahata, after saying, is there no nimitta? But the understanding of the reality and nimitta, no doubt about it anymore. No akusna for absolutely understand the word
But still nimitta.
as a true. Otherwise, Arahata cannot do anything, cannot walk, cannot eat, cannot go anywhere.
Right.
But yeah.
So it's there's still nimitta, but a different level of understanding about realities. No
The rapidity of
misunderstanding.
the arising and falling away of reality, the world. But no attachment, no ignorance about the truth of what is there, which is now hidden. So many things in this very moment, we call this moment, but so many moments in what we take for this moment. It seems like as soon as the eyes opened, something is there appear as thing, not understanding the different processes at all. And Arahata does not change the way it is, but understanding the truth is there perfectly.
So the world of nimitta is inherent in life in samsara, for every being in samsara. There is the living in the world of nimitta, but for the Arahat, no misunderstanding about that.
About nimitta as nimitta, reality as reality.
Thank you, Ajahn. So similar to when we say we live in the world of concepts too, because for the Arahata, they're also concepts, but no taking of concepts for reality.
Is concept nimitta too?
Is concept nimitta?
The arising and falling away so rapidly, Minda and Sensor and Bhuvanka in between.
Concepts are said not to arise and fall away.
And nimitta doesn't arise and fall away. But no word about it. It's the word, the function, the task, the work of the way realities are from moment to moment. And without nimitta, can there be concept?
Without nimitta, can there be concepts? Well, it's just all part of life in samsara. So I think it's just an inevitable part of existence.
So we come back again to what is concept. Thinking, idea.
The object of thinking, concept.
As nimitta. When there's no understanding, no direct experiencing of the truth.
not sure why it's necessary to attach nimitta to concepts, because they don't arise and fall away. They are just the object of thinking.
But there can be the understanding of the absolute reality and concept of nimitta.
Yes, yes, thank you, Ajahn. So it always comes back to the understanding of a reality that is appearing at the present moment.
And they are only object of thinking or experiencing. That's why that which arises in experience can experience anything which is there. It can experience Nibbana, it can experience ignorance, but now no understanding of that which appears as it is. It's there as soon as there is the, after experiencing an object, no understanding of that which has arising and falling away. Arisen and fallen already, no more to be known, to be experienced.
What I understand, from what I gather, Ajahn, the reality of nimitta as an inherent part of life in samsara becomes apparent only to quite highly developed understanding.
Is nimitta a reality?
And nimitta is not a reality.
So there must be a reality, many realities.
Yes.
And Sanya marks and remembers wrongly, vipallasa. Take it for something.
Sanya marks or remembers what is the object.
See, atta sanya, taste it. Sanya marks it and taste it for atta, something.
Sanya marks the object, right? It's the object
But
that is
there
marked by
right
sanya and taken for something.
So that is right sanya, not as vipallasa, because of understanding. That's why they go together. When there is the understanding of the truth, sanya marks and remember correctly, little by little too.
Right.
Does Sanya mark the concept and remember?
Sanya arises with each itta. That's why there is sanya vipallasa. Taking it as something, but it's not something or anything at all.
We see, yes.
Conditioned to arise and experience and then gone instantly. And at this moment of understanding, sanya marks and remembers the characteristic which is studied little by little. So sanya arises with citta, no matter kusala or akusala, with panya or without panya. And that is the way to let go the wrong sanya as well too. When citta arises with right understanding, sanya marks correctly, little by little, at different degrees. That's why Buddha said after his enlightenment, all dhammas are so very subtle, but it can be known. When panya is there, it begins to have right understanding of different level, intellectual level. Is it not true that there is not always seeing? There must be other reality which arises, which seems to be together, but in truth, never be like that at all, not in the same moment. And there are many moments in between too, mind and what is Pawanka. Panjatavara Vachana Manodavara Vasna is Chitta. must be there by condition. But seeing to arise, and after seeing has gone, the other citta just share the same object, but that does not see. So see, it seems like there is always seeing right now, but the other citta cannot see, only seeing sees. And that is the truth. And Sanya must and remember little by little with citta, which understand little by little. Same level of Sanya. So Sanya is also Lokutra when it's there with citta, which experience the Dhamma. It eradicates wrong Sanya stage by stage.
Like the name Alberto, without Sanya, how could it be remembered when the concept is experienced, and many, many concepts to have the idea of Alberto. And even when there's no thinking after seeing, just an impression, still the Sanya is marking and remembering the impression, the idea, to condition thinking about it again and again.
I just wanted to add something about nimitta and paññatti. Not sure, but it seems to me that it's the more there is understanding, the less there is paññatti, and the less the more there is understanding, the more there is just the nimitta of the reality, and but with less concept about things and people and things, and so let's go with more understanding. There is less thinking about concept, because there is less letting go of something or the people. But that's just not sure if John agrees with this. I think that there must be some difference between having more understanding and having no understanding in terms of the object of thinking. Because as Ajahn was explaining, nimitta is the object of mind or process, like concept is. So there can be more nimitta and less concepts with more pañña, I think.
Jonathan, your earphones.
All right, thanks very much. I'm not sure I quite caught what the point you're making about it. Could you just restate it briefly, please?
Yeah, about the point of the Arahant having concepts and thinking in terms of people and things. Mm-hmm. I think this must be of course, there's still at some level there must still be this recognizing people and all that, but there must be much less thinking about it, and more, and the object should be more about nimitta, just nimitta, without without concept as something.
Could you give an example of what you mean by that? Just nimitta without concept as object of the.
Yeah, yeah. That's when the yeah, like now. So I can think about John and Ajahn and Sarah, Alberto, and so there can be different thinking about the people, and or maybe or the glass of water, or whatever, or there can be just being less thinking about this concept, and maybe more moments of let's say being thinking about and maybe thinking is not the right word. Maybe it's the object of mind, or is just when there is more understanding, it changes the object of.
Alberto, maybe I can help. Perhaps what you're saying is the example can be of the Buddha's disciple during the Buddha's time, who, when going out for alms round, saw a woman and the woman's teeth, and said that he didn't see that woman, but it was just like a nimitta, not the teeth, something like that. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good example. That one, and also about not when the monk goes to the round in the village, he doesn't pay attention to the nimitta and anubhyanjana, that sort of thing. Yeah. Thank you, Sukin. Yeah,
Okay,
good
well,
example.
that particular example, it explains that bhikkhu was developing samatha with foulness of the body as object. So that was why when he saw the teeth, that was his subject of contemplation. Or I don't know whether he'd attained jhana or not, but that's a special case there. So that it does not describe how an arahant necessarily perceives the world, that he sees a person's teeth and doesn't see the rest of the face or body. I'm sure that would be unnatural, and it's not the norm. I can only say that it seems to me that for the arahant there is still conceptualizing, as there is for the worldling, but without any misunderstanding, without the akusala cittas. And I don't see any problem with that. I don't see why the arahant should have less conceptualizing and thinking. It is the nature of the mind. The citta's got to arise and fall away so quickly, and it is going from one sense door to the other and to the mind door in between. And it is explained that's the nature of citta in the suttas, like the monkey swinging through the forest. That sutta, that analogy, it's not analogy, analogy is not just for the worldling of the monkey swinging through the forest, grasping one branch then another. It's for everyone in samsara. And so there's bound to be mind or processes in between that are thinking about what's been experienced through the sense door. And it may be that the Arahant doesn't have as many stories about yesterday and tomorrow as the worldling. That I couldn't say, but there's still all these mind or jittas arising and has something as an object, and it can't just be except for the person who's developed jhana. Of course, that's a different case, a special case. But if we're talking about outside of that, then I'm not able to think of any way in which the conceptualizing differs between the Arahant and the worldling.
What about the example I gave of the Arahats discussing the splendors of the Gosinga forest? Just very natural. And if we forget about the Arahats and talk about developing of understanding, if there's the idea that there'll be less experiencing of concepts, I think it's an expectation and can lead to a wrong understanding or a wrong practice, because the purpose is not to have less thinking of concepts, but to understand the truth, to understand the reality, the thinking at that time, the seeing, the hearing in between, whatever appears, not to suddenly not have the idea of different people's names or not know what one's eating at lunch or anything like that. But like Jonathan said, more understanding, less being carried away with the usual wrong understanding and attachment. But I don't think it means there's less thinking of concepts, and there can be nimitta of reality or nimitta of the concept experienced. No selection, no expectation at all.
I mean, the thinking may be different, but it will still be thinking. The
We'll be thinking about concepts of ideas for sure.
Different in what way do you think?
For example, if there's understanding, there's thinking about what has just been understood, as against no understanding and just thinking with attachment.
Thinking about the forest, but without attachment, but still the ideas of the different leaves or trees or the places or the different kutis or the different postures, all by accumulations and conditions.
And of course, all the habits, thinking habits that have been accumulated in the past are still there, but without the agusala and gusala tendencies, but accumulated tendencies. A person who is, as a layperson, inclined to pay more attention to, for example, color than the average person would still do so as an Arahant, presumably, because those habitual tendencies don't change. What changes is the tendency for attachment and aversion gets eradicated.
But you can see even in our own case, we, having heard the Dhamma and considered there's more thinking about Dhamma than would have been otherwise. So yeah, the thinking is still there, but it's just different. Maybe that's what Alberto also had in mind when he says, when he was saying that less thinking, it's probably less thinking about things like most people think, like what will happen tomorrow and what happened yesterday. And
yes, well, I think I said that probably he's less stories about the past and the future, but still, even apart from the moments of thinking about the Dhamma, they will still be few compared to all the moments of thinking in a day that go on. Brilliance of them. So just the moments of thinking that recognize, conceptualize about
No,
who
as
that is.
you said earlier, it's part of samsara. There wouldn't be, and Ajahn said, there wouldn't be, any action, eating or walking or anything if there was no thinking. So of course,
Right.
Arhat has to think
So
about.
we can agree that the Arahant thinks more useful thinking about the Dhamma than the worldling. Yes, I can agree with that. But otherwise, there's still
By virtue
other thinking that's just sort of not related to the Dhamma at all.
More thinking about the realities, yeah, definitely. And because more panya means more thinking about this, about
Right, as Sukin mentioned,
dhammas.
it's apparent even for us that when there's been some development when there's interest in the Dhamma and hopefully some development of understanding, then there's more conditions to think about the Dhamma. But that never takes over everything else. It never gets developed to the stage where there's no other thinking.
Of course not,
No.
And it doesn't mean less concepts, more nimitta, less concepts. It just means that as understanding develops, then the interest in what is important, the understanding of what is the truth now develops.
Perhaps I'm wrong, but I think Achary's reminder about living in the world of nimitta is actually because it's mostly the nimitta, and compared to concepts, there's more nimitta living in the world of nimitta, because not everything we think about. I mean, there's a lot of sounds, a lot of visible objects, but only selected are thought about. Most of it is just, in the background, so.
Sorry, what do you mean by more nimitta?
Nimitta means that right now, for example, in front of me is a monitor. I'm not thinking about the back of the monitor, although it's being experienced and thought about, but not in the sense of having to identify what's behind. But there's thinking about the monitor, but not anything else. That's what I mean. But yet, yes, there is and a lot of that is not like life goes on without identifying each and everything that's around us, that every visible object that contacts the eye, there's thinking about what was just seen, but there's a lot of visible object and a lot of nimitta of things, different people. We don't recognize everyone on the street, but we know that there are people. What I'm making the distinction here is that there's between, say, nimitta and anupayanchana, the details is not thought about. A lot of.
I think we're getting into the world of samatha, concentration and jhana here, rather than development of understanding per se. If you're talking about less attention to nimitta and anupayanchana, I don't think the suttas say that the development of understanding leads to less attention.
I'm not talking about understanding. I'm saying our life as it is, even now. It's more nimitta than concepts that's thought about.
I think, Sukin, that whether we say we live in the world of nimitta or live in the world of nimitta and anupayanchana or live in the world of concepts, it's referring to how what is seen, what is heard is taken for something so soon. Impression of someone, a place, a time. So actually it's living in the dream world, the fantasy world, the most of the time, on account of the nimitta of realities which have been experienced. If there were no realities, there would not be the signs of the realities. And without the signs of realities, there wouldn't be this endless thinking and dreaming and fantasizing about people and places and times and something. So it's not so much a matter of the words, but the understanding of the truth now that most of the time one is lost with attachment and ignorance in the world of taking what is experienced for things and people. And this is most of the time.
And most of the time, and compared to having taken experience, certain rupas or even namas as something, there is a lot of experience not taken for something.
But usually, as we know, even in the sense door processes, there are the asavas, there is the clinging, there is the ignorance, there is the wrong view instantly, so soon. So the taking for something, the clinging follows so quickly, instantly, unknown. Even there's no thought about the word or the name Alberto, there's the impression, the taking the shape and form for something straight away. Let's see if Ajahn would like to add more to your points.
Yes, on the subject of more or less nimitta in the life of the Arahat compared to the worldling. Thank you. We can't hear you, Ajahn.
When one says one lives in the world of concept, there must be the understanding what concept is, or nimitta. We live in the world of nimitta. The person who does not understand the truth just live in the world of ignorance, not understanding what is nimitta and what is reality. That's why when there's no understanding of the truth, they take the nimitta as so real. Something and someone in the whole life, from birth to death, not understanding the truth. That's why when we use the term people or I or anyone live in the world of nimitta, it means that usually in a day, no understanding of reality until hearing about the truth and beginning to understand what is meant by living in the world of nimitta, of the untrue. What appears is not as it is, as no thing, and it's gone at all. That's why the person who say the word nimitta should understand what is meant by nimitta. Is it not true? We live in the world of nimitta when there is the understanding of very few moments of understanding the truth. And if it's not heard at all, how can there be the understanding of no one? Only what is real is conditioned, arising and falling away from moment to moment. And even so, Arahata cannot change his accumulation or anything at all because all dhammas are anatta. That's why life goes as usual, seeing, hearing, thinking, and so on. But understand it. What is real is that sunyata and anatta. Nothing is left at all. From moment to moment, in samsara, just arise to experience, and depending on whether there is understanding or not. If there is no understanding, the world of people and things, from life to life, the world of nimitta, no understanding. But when there is the understanding, there is the word nimitta. Otherwise, those who just live without understanding, can they understand nimitta? Impossible. They take it for real. People and things all the time in one's life. But in truth, the person who uses the word nimitta understand what nimitta is. Usually, when it's daily speech, it means something like a dream, nimitta. It's only what it appears like in a dream, it appears such and such. It is nimitta, not true. But truth, what is real and what is a reality, cannot be known at all. Long as there is no hearing about the truth of absolute reality. That's why when we talk about nimitta, it's that which appears as something. And if there's no Paramadadhamma, no absolute truth, no reality, there cannot be nimitta at all. But since reality arises and falls away in split seconds, and the arising and falling away of the reality which is experienced, conditioned at moment of seeing, different shape and form instantly to be taken for thing, chair, and curtain, and on. See, and that is nimitta of that which arises and falls away. Not just nimitta of that which appears, nimitta of that which arises and falls away too. So in order to understand the truth, it is to understand life as it is. Now, at moment of seeing, nimitta. At moment of eating, it's nimitta. No matter what, it's taken for someone or something all the time. That's why the Buddha enlightened the absolute truth of what is taken as thing and people, that actually what are there must be only one characteristic of a reality, the absolute truth. So the word nimitta and the word of Paramadadhamma and the word panyati, is it clear? Without nimitta, there cannot be panyati. It's made known as something because of the nimitta, the shape and form of that. And the nimitta without Paramadadhamma, there cannot be nimitta. When there's no nimitta, there's no panjati, no reality. That's why reality, even it's seeing, it doesn't need any word to make it known, because the characteristic of that which sees is there. That which sees, now there is seeing. By that, the reality which arises to see. If seen does not arise at all, they cannot be seen. And thinking, thinks a lot all the time. After seeing, after hearing, after smelling, after tasting, instantly, when it's gone, the sense cell finished, and Bhavanga is in between, and my process arises. Experience that which is experienced by the sense cell. And so many moments, many dvara, many processes of mind. So it's conditioned idea all day about what is seen and what is heard. That's all. No matter Arahata's life, Buddha's life goes on by conditions. There must be reality, seeing, hearing, then there must be thinking, there must be the idea of that asset. But the truth is known, that in life actually, without absolute realities, there cannot be anything at all. So when we talk about we live in the world of panyati, when there's no understanding of the truth, they're all panyati, known, not the truth of what's there, which condition the idea, panyati, and limit the image, the mark or the sign of that which appears.
So Sukin, when it's said we live in the world of nimitta or we live in the world of panyati, we're not referring to the life of the Arahat. It's referring to now, when one is lost in the story about what is experienced all day, every day, without understanding.
I thought in the end, just now, Achan was making the distinction between the Arahat also living in the world of nimitta, whereas it's the Putujana, people like us, we are both nimitta and concept.
For the arahat, there's the experiencing of the nimitta of reality, and there's experiencing of the concepts on account of the nimitta, but without any understanding. But when she's referring to living in the world of nimitta, living in the world of concepts, it's referring to living now without understanding.
But I
Not
cannot
understanding the truth.
I don't understand really the term living in the world of nimitta. I mean, all we can know is nimitta, so that our world has to be nimitta any way around, with understanding or without understanding the world. Only for us human beings or for the sense doors, all there can be known is nimitta.
Is that Kun Sarah? See, is there Kun Sarah?
There is no kunsara, but there is nimitta that is taken for kunsara.
And in truth, at this very moment, no word, no panjati for that which is seen at all. Is it true? That's why panjata is the object of citta. After seeing, after nimitta, it made known as this one is kunsara, and the other one is kunina, and the other one is someone, on and on and on. There must be nimitta, and there must be panjati. Make it known as what it's what. Buddha is not Sariputta, is not Ananda. There must be nimitta of Buddha to make it known as this one is the Buddha, and the other is made known as Ananda. That's why there must be thinking of shape and form, but right or wrong understanding of that which is there appearing. No doubt about visible object, no doubt about the truth of it, but at that, the difference between everything all in the world can be known by words, or even without words, like dog and cat. They know what's what. That is panjati. Made it known as food or the owner and what is what. But there must be nimitta of that too. Otherwise, how can it be known as this and that, different ones? That's why, in truth, the absolute truth arises and falls away unknowingly, but the succession of the rapidity of the arising and falling away from up, shape, and form, even sound, different sound, taste, smell, and so on, to be known by nimitta of such as something, whether it's pepper, or whether it's meat, or whether it's what. It's made known from that which appears as nimitta of that to be known. We can change the word, but we cannot change the nimitta of that particular reality which arises and falls away as such shape and form. And there must be the reality which is different to make the shape and form different too. That's why the understanding of the truth of what is there really, there is thinking about shape and form, to make known as panjati, what is what. For sure, even right now. Otherwise, how can there be eating, moving, taking bath, resting, so on, without panjati?
So I think, Ajahn, for the arahat, he or she just sees more clearly the extent to which nimitta is a part of life in samsara, and just like concepts. And we can draw a parallel here, or I think of it a similar way to dukkha. It's not that there's less dukkha for the arahat. The arahat sees dukkha more clearly than anyone else. And it's the same with nimitta in that sense, and concepts. It's just more apparent. It's seen as it truly is. The question of more or less nimitta doesn't really arise.
What reality doesn't have nimitta? See, reality.
There's no reality.
Only nibbana.
Only. Oh, I see.
Nibbana. does not arise. That's why Nibbana doesn't have nimitta.
Yeah, and the
Arises, falls away instantly, unexpectedly. How repetitive it is, conditioned the nimitta from the succession of the arising and falling away of the reality, whether it's the same kind or whether it is different kind.
and as
For
understanding
sound appears as not visible object, and visible object does not appear as smell. They have their own nimitta to be born, because just one single entity cannot be the object of understanding by way of process that Buddha had that realized.
and
That's
the
So
why
that,
difference is right understanding of the truth. Ignorance is that from birth to death. How can there be the understanding of no one and nothing at all? They take whatever is there as so real as people and things, panyati and nimitta. For Arhata, he sees Ananda, Mokkhala, and so on as usual. No doubt about realities, no doubt about different stages of enlightenment, no doubt that now there is no ignorance and all kinds of akusala and kusala anymore. Not only akusala, but even kusala. No, at moment of becoming Arahata. So right understanding is there, understanding the truth of what is there now, in truth, not as it appears. So reality does not appear as it is. And only that which at moment of the process of seeing, how short, how little, how tiny it is, and then gone, no shape and no form. Just only one single moment of seeing, and single object as the object. Heat is heat, smell is smell. See, they appear as different realities, no name, but it's experience. And when there's no understanding of that, is the nimitta of that kind of reality. No understanding of the difference between nimitta and reality. But it can be known at moment when there is attention and awareness with a little more understanding, until even sati is different. Because now there can be sati sometimes, so very short moment, not as clear as when it's there, on and on, directly and more direct to the characteristic that later the arising and falling away of that can appear to the strong panya, which takes only one object at a time, because direct awareness, sati, is stronger to just get closer and closer to the truth of just one characteristic.
Ajahn, you just talked about the distinction between nimitta and reality. You just talked about the distinction between nimitta and reality. And a moment ago, you said that the only reality without nimitta is nibbana. So in that case, the distinction.
I mean that what reality doesn't have nimitta, because nibbana does not arise, so it cannot fall away, and it's not followed by another nibbana. So how can there be the nimitta of nibbana? But the other reality arises and falls away, like seeing right now. Not only one single moment of seeing, many, and imagine how many are there at this moment of seeing unknown, because of the other citta, which arise before and which arise after, are unknown now. What appears is only seeing there all the time, but in truth it's not. Just single moment of seeing, and then the other realities, and then a single moment of seeing. How fast it is to condition that which is seen as a thing. But without that which arises and falls away, can a reality which is experienced appear as a thing? Just one single moment of seeing, impossible. And that single moment of seeing cannot be object of right understanding. What is the object? It's the nimitta of seeing. That's why there can be the understanding of nimitta, of reality, and nimitta of the rapidity of the succession of realities to be known by ways as the what is seen, different colors and different moment of thinking about it as something. Belief now, paper is not the fruit, it's not anything. Instantly, by Sanya must and remembers, together with Citta, wrongly, because no understanding of the truth. But when we talk about the absolute truth, only the absolute truth is a reality, like seeing now. No one there. Reality, which arises just to see, just to experience that which impinges on the eye base. The eye base does not appear at moment of what is the object. Even right now, seeing does not appear as the object of understanding. What appears is that which can be known as usually something, but in truth, it's the nimitta of that object which arises and falls away. Experienced by Citta is known as a leaf or fruit, a kind of fruit, and so on, or a grain of rice, and so on. See, it is not true. No understanding of the truth. So what is there is taken for different things and different people. The world of concept, but with reality, there cannot be any concept. There cannot be any nimitta. When it's known, it's not like as it is now appearing. That's why it's the degree, the different degree of panya, right? And at level of intellectual understanding, it's not the direct understanding of only one reality directly. Not so many things. It's the awareness of any reality, anyone. So right understand correctly the moment when it's there. No doubt about it, when it appears as the object of understanding. This is to be known from the very beginning too, to understand Dhamma, anatta, or Dhammas, anatta, or conditioned reality, or Sankhara Dhamma, anicca, dukkha, but still anatta. Seeing Kunsara, is it the word of concept? Kunsara. In truth, no Kunsara. What is seen is seen. And then gone. Just only one appearing. Imagine, panya, experience the true world. No thing at all. At all. What does it mean? What appears now is lost. No more, not anyone, only an object which is experienced. And the experience is that object which is experienced. The word, no matter what appears, it can be attachment or anger or hardness or sound. The movement, see, why you're talking. All depends on conditions, no expectation, unexpectedly. That is anatta. Who knows what would be next moment? Even that is not known. Anatta all the time. But the understanding is not enough to let go what is taken for someone and something instantly, very, very rapidly, as soon as it's there. No understanding of the succession of that which arises and falls away before it can be known as something. And this is a panya of the enlightenment. He taught about the truth, the absolute truth of what is there as it is. So what appears is only the nimitta of that, not the only one, the real one, only one. which arises and falls away, because the succession of that reality is known in life as it is. That's why no matter Arahata or anyone experience the same object, but different levels of understanding. So it has to be clear understanding of reality, nimitta, and panyati, and sammati after that. The same thing, the same seeing, hearing, but this one is the king and the other one is the frog or the fish. Sammuti. Because of panyati, of the nimitta, of the reality. And sammati can be changed, but the truth cannot be changed.
So understanding the nature of nimitta, of reality, understanding the truth of reality by way of nimitta is the opposite to what is meant by living in the world of nimitta without understanding, with ignorance as usual. Thank you very much, Ajahn.